maybe what's missing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it did a good job having that interconnectedness with, the first three tenets in the philosophy: physical, mental, spiritual.
Yeah.
I wonder if to me, there's something more. We think about on the path, and this whole self philosophy is the things that we believe keep us on the path.
Yeah.
But where are we going on the path? I'm going to say that it is living into our purpose. And I think having that North Star built into this definition might actually say, like, well, why am I holding myself accountable? Like, what am I holding myself accountable to?
Yeah.
I think that gives you then that North Star that you're working towards. And why are you doing all these things? Why does it matter?
Yeah.
Welcome to the On the Path podcast, a conversation on navigating life. Join Chris Coker and Colin Creech as they have honest conversations with fellow travelers on the path. In each episode, they explore the physical, mental, and spiritual health aspects of the whole self, striving for personal accountability and a strong community. Gain insights, learn from our mistakes, and hear from guests who have mastered these areas. Step on the path, embracing every challenge and success along the way. See you on the path.
Welcome back to episode number 4 of our mini-series, Colin. Congratulations. We have made it past the halfway mark. And today we're going to talk about personal accountability, which will be a much easier conversation than spiritual. It's a little bit more on the nose. But it's been, I think, really good to do these kind of reshaping of the definitions as we've gone through now several conversations. So this has been a great way to kind of reimagine a little bit where each of these falls and how they all connect together, and how that each of these different tenets actually supports us living, I think, a more fulfilling life and helping us live more into our purpose. But what do you think?
Well, this podcast is a conversation on navigating life, and who said conversations on navigating life were ever going to be super easy and not, complex, filled with maybe some disagreements? That's life. Sounds about right. But yes, we've been going through the 5 tenets of our whole self philosophy. We've so far redefined physical, mental, spiritual.
Yep.
Today we're on our 4th tenet, which is personal accountability. And to your point, I slept great last night. The spiritual one was incredibly challenging, but also really rewarding.
Yes.
But I feel personal accountability is going to be much straightforward for everyone.
Yeah. So let me let me read you where we started. So for the good of everybody listening, we'll read where we started, and then of course, as we've done with the previous 3 tenets, we're now going to just kind of do a live workshop on has it changed, right? We're only going to make changes where they're necessary. So with that, let's start with the original definition. So the original definition of personal accountability, as we see it: self-leadership and self-regulation. Setting personal standards, goals, and regular check-ins fosters growth in physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. So, Colin, where does that take you? Is it close? Where are the gaps? Like, how do you think we need to start improving it?
Well, I think that it actually has this action-oriented piece that we were saying was really kind of maybe a gap in the other 3 tenets we've reviewed so far. So this one really is, has some very action-oriented, like, here's what this can look like in your life, personal accountability. Yeah. So I will say that for me, like, if we're starting with, like, what do we like still, like, for me, the action-oriented piece is still is actually here already.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's a good thing. And it's something that we could do, like this idea of, let me look at it again. So setting standards, goals, and check-ins, like you could literally put that kind of stuff on your calendar, right? So it's very actionable. So I think I agree with you. We got that part right. What do you think is missing?
Well, what do you like? What do you like about it? I like the calendar piece, like the fact that it was, something schedulable. That was mine, action oriented. So give me something that you still different? Appreciate it. Yeah.
I like the tone.
Are you interviewing me, Chris? What's going on here today?
I think this is an area where we could improve on the definition, but I think that we have like this idea of how it ties into physical, mental, and spiritual well-being is important. That personal accountability is one of the undertones that can help kind of tie these things things together. That's, I think, a good piece of the definition. But I think we need to get a little bit more clear on that. How does personal accountability actually tie these things together? So that's an area where we could explore in the new definition.
Okay. So then going to that part, then what you were asking was maybe what's missing. I think it did a good job having that interconnectedness with, the first three tenets in the philosophy: physical, mental, spiritual.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's something more. We think about on the path, and this whole self philosophy is the things that we believe keep us on the path.
Yeah.
But where are we going on the path? I'm going to say that it is living into our purpose. And I think having that North Star built into this definition might actually say, like, well, why am I holding myself accountable? Like, what am I holding myself accountable to?
Yeah.
I think that gives you then that North Star that you're working towards. And why are you doing all these things? Why does it matter?
Yeah. It actually, we were talking a little bit before the show, Colin, and we were talking about one particular question of for what purpose. And I think that's what you're getting at here. And personal accountability, once we answer that question, for what purpose, personal accountability is what it's kind of the guardrails on the path, right? It's kind of what keeps us not straying too far to the left or to the right.
Sometimes you just want to go check out the view somewhere else, but you got to get back on the path eventually. So
yeah. Ooh, I like that. Got to go check off the view. That's what I'm going to say to you if I'm like feeling like I want to procrastinate on something. No, there's just this view over here that I'm trying to check out. So.
Yeah. You can be honest. You got to take a vacation. Like, to me, I'm going to go look at a nice view. I'm going to, take a break for 4 days from the gym and some other things to go stay and hang out. Like for the holidays, we talked about it.
Yep.
Did you work out Thanksgiving, or did you eat as much food as you possibly can? Because it's amazing. It's delicious.
Yes, that is what I did.
Okay, so what is missing, you think, from your perspective?
I think that is the big one. It's just kind of continuing to build on how these things are connected. I love the call out for bringing in purpose. I think those are good. And then maybe we can just get more clear, just like with every mini series we've done so far. I think it's just a matter of continuing to refine the clarity of each word, right? So even like self-leadership and self-regulation, like I don't want to take for granted that like I know what I mean by that, but is that clear, right? So I think just as we kind of put together the new definition, we keep thinking through more and more clarity for where it goes.
So you're saying like, okay, those are great, but like a little bit more like, what does that mean?
Exactly.
So I know you were working, we were talking, putting notes together before this. So there's a draft definition now. So how about let's read the draft and then see how it lands, given those, we're looking, it does have action oriented, which is good. You're also, I forget what your pro was, but I do think then to the apologies, I'm trying to recap it, but and then for the things that were probably missing was, probably something where like, why are we doing all these things? Purpose. And then also for yours, I do remember this one, like, what does self-regulation or self-leadership mean?
Right, exactly. Okay. So, all right, so let's, here, I'll take, I will narrate the updated definition, and I think we'll tweak it from there.
Okay.
All right, so the refined definition is personal accountability involves self-leadership and self-regulation through setting clear standards, meaningful goals, and regular self-reflection. This practice fosters growth in physical, mental, and spiritual well-being by encouraging alignment with your purpose, intentional actions, and a commitment to continuous personal learning and growth.
So question for you, now that I'm thinking about this. The first sentence, we talked about setting clear standards, meaningful goals, and regular self-reflection. And then in the second sentence, what's the difference then with like intentional actions and commitment to continual personal learning and growth? Like, isn't the intentional action piece, I guess it's a question, already covered like in that first sentence?
Or I think different? It is. As I read it out loud, I think some of this is, the definition is just too wordy. So it's almost an over index in getting more clear. And I think all we've done is gotten too verbose. So let's try to think about how we can clean it up a little bit. And to your point, we don't need to be duplicative. Like get the point across and then leave it alone.
I like if you remove intentional actions and then say alignment with your purpose and a commitment to continuous personal learning and growth, because really there isn't a big part of personal development in the first sentence. It's kind of like, here's what the self-leadership and self-regulation means. But what do you think?
Yeah, here, let me try to refine it a little bit. I have a couple of thoughts here.
Okay.
I'm going to try to cut it in half without taking
cut
away
the whole
what we're
thing
saying.
In half.
Generally, well, I think just less words. But here, let me see. So, personal accountability means leading and regulating yourself by setting clear standards, meaningful goals, and reflecting regularly. It promotes growth in physical, mental, and spiritual by aligning your actions with purpose and committing to self-improvement.
Okay, let me think really fast. Let's start with the first sentence, right? What did you throw down?
So here's
wait, before I see him making edits live, everybody. So maybe keep that original one and then create a second.
That's right above the new definition here. Yep.
That you copy and pasted the one we just had.
Okay. And then here's the other one.
So okay, everybody, we're good. Crisis averted. Okay. So that's your new updated definition. Okay. So I'll read it.
Remember, everybody,
personal accountability means leading. Well, we're figuring out life live. Personal accountability means leading and regulating yourself by setting clear standards, meaningful goals, and reflecting regularly. It promotes growth in body, mind, and spirit. I think it should be physical, mental, spiritual.
Yeah.
By aligning actions with your purpose and by aligning actions with your purpose.
Okay.
And a commitment to lifelong self-improvement.
A commitment to
a life of self-improvement.
Okay.
And the other one I was going to question is the end of the first sentence, and then we can go through it again, is instead of reflecting regularly, I think it's because I think we remove continuous everywhere else. I think it's continuous self-reflection.
Setting clear standards,
meaningful goals, and self-reflection. Maybe not continuous, just self-reflection.
Yeah. Or consistent self-reflection.
Ooh.
No. Do we need extra words? No, we don't.
I think, okay. So read it for us again. Yeah.
Okay. So,
please
and is
read
it cut
for
in
us
half?
again.
Or let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's almost cut in half from what it was. Personal accountability means leading and regulating yourself by setting clear standards, meaningful goals, and self-reflection. It promotes growth in physical, mental, and spiritual by aligning spiritual well-being, right? I think we should have that word back in here.
Yeah.
By aligning actions with your purpose and a commitment to a life of self-improvement.
Is it your actions with your purpose? I don't want to add extra yours, but I think sometimes it's like the accountability piece for the accountability tenet.
Or maybe it's neither, Colin, honestly. It could just be because
aligning your actions with purpose, the reader,
right? By aligning actions with purpose, period. Like that's much more like direct and I think focused.
But I think purpose can get lost. Like, yes, I'm purposefully doing this or I'm purposely doing that. I think by saying your purpose, we're talking about that North Star is my personal interpretation.
Okay. Then I would say then just leave the one. Okay. So how about you take a swag at it, since I know I just read through the update, but give it a whirl.
About this? Read us the initial definition we had at the beginning of this year, and then I'll read the second one, and we'll see how it feels.
Okay, so let me go back.
I'll read the updated one.
All right, so the original definition: self-leadership and self-regulation. Setting personal standards, goals, and regular check-ins fosters growth in physical, mental, and spiritual well-being.
So the first new sentence is personal accountability means leading and regulating yourself by setting clear standards, meaningful goals, and self-reflection. Is by setting clear standards, meaningful goals, and self-reflection. Is that there's a lot of ing endings for words and then just reflection? Is that grammatically correct? Phone a friend.
I think
like
it's
to buy a vowel.
Good. Personal account, leading, regulating, setting. I see what you mean. So it's just wordy. You're thinking it's still a little wordy.
Is it by maybe to me it's by setting goals, by setting goals and standards and regular self-reflection.
Setting.
And
okay, by setting. Let me just go through and make the edits now. Okay, so personal accountability means leading and regulating yourself by setting goals
and standards
and
regular self-reflection.
Okay. It promotes growth in physical, mental, and spiritual well-being by aligning actions with your purpose and a commitment to a life of self-improvement.
Mm-hmm.
To lifelong improvement. How about that? It's a little bit more concise.
I love the thought of lifelong learner, but that doesn't work in this definition, I don't think. So commitment to lifelong improvement or lifelong, I guess, personal accountability. I think what was missing, which we liked about the first one, is continuous like growth, like learning, education too. So
yeah,
I think if we can fit that back into that last piece, a commitment to like obviously your purpose, but then a commitment to that, like if you're setting goals for yourself and standards based off what you know today and you're never learning anything new, well,
yeah,
I feel like that's a big gap too.
Okay. So self-improvement, lifelong self-improvement?
No, I think it's a life of continuous personal learning, maybe something around there. Because we already got this, like when you learn more and you're living into your purpose, well, I would think that by the regular self-reflection and goal settings and standards, like you'll be making these tweaks as you get more information, or as you have these life changes where you need to make updates to where you're spending your time. I do think just the last one, and then everyone, we will read it and see how it lands. I think it's set by setting goals and standards.
Yep.
With regular self-reflection.
I like that. Yes, good idea.
Regular self, I think, has got to be in there. All right.
So let me give it a read here.
Yes, sir.
Personal accountability means leading and regulating yourself by setting goals and standards with regular self-reflection. It promotes growth in physical, mental, and spiritual well-being by aligning actions with your purpose and committing to a life of continuous learning. What do you think?
Is it commitment to a life?
I think it could be either. I'm trying to make them like progressive words, right? Like a commitment to versus like we're going to commit, right? We're committing to this thing. So it puts more, I guess, ownership on the word.
Okay. Well, okay, let's do this. What was the first definition, Chris? And then I will read the latest and greatest.
All right. So the original: self-leadership and self-regulation. Setting personal standards, goals, and regular check-ins fosters growth in physical, mental, and spiritual well-being.
All right. And now updated, the whole self-philosophy tenet of personal accountability. Personal accountability means leading and regulating yourself by setting goals and standards with regular self-reflection. It promotes growth in physical, mental, and spiritual well-being by aligning actions with your purpose and committing to a life of continuous learning. I think a commitment to, and I don't know, you read it out loud. Let's see how the guest, maybe the well-spoken Chris on a beautiful Sunday morning, we won't give you a date, see how it sounds when you read this.
Personal accountability means leading and regulating yourself by setting goals and standards with regular self-reflection. It promotes growth in physical, mental, and spiritual well-being by aligning actions with your purpose and committing to a life of continuous learning.
Is it by committing? There's a word missing, I believe.
By aligning actions with your purpose. Well, then
you're just saying you don't need by, like you haven't done it yet. You're saying this is.
Yeah, I think you need both. I think you need both. I think you need to align actions with purpose and you need to commit. So it's not just like you can know, right? It's like think of like land navigation, right? Like you can know what the right azimuth is, but if you're not willing to walk in that direction, you're never going to find your point. So you need both. You need the alignment, but then you also need the commitment to move forward. So I think and is the right word.
Yeah.
I think we're close. We're close.
So thinking out loud, and I'd love to read it one more time before we wrap it up, but where do you think in your life, or when you think, just look at the external world around us, the people we interact with, where is personal accountability? Like, where is it easy for people usually at a baseline, but where do you think people really seem to struggle?
I think it's easy. Personal accountability is obviously an intrinsic thing, right? It's why we have personal accountability and strong community, because I think one is intrinsic, the other is extrinsic. And I think personal accountability is easy when we over-index on the intrinsic piece, right? When we keep it to ourselves. Part of what makes it difficult, I think, for a lot of people, at least in my experience, people that maybe fall short of those things that they said, it's when they verbalize it, right? Like, because now it's difficult. Like now they've said it to the world that I have set this goal, I've set this standard, whatever the case may be. Like when they've said it out loud, now it becomes much, much harder, because now the opportunity for failure truly exists. And that's when doubt kicks in. That's when fear kicks in. It's not nearly as hard when it's all in your head and you haven't said it out loud. So that's why I think this new definition is strong with, what do we say? Setting goals, standards with regular self-reflection. Like setting goals, I think, like find the confidence in your life where you can verbalize that to them so that you have kind of an accountability partner to say, hey, you said you were going to do that thing. Have you? Colin, you and I have done that several times.
It's clearly me checking in on you, Chris.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a joke, a sarcasm. But I love this. Do me a favor, read it one more time, and then I would love to end us with a quote, because I think there's a part of this when people listen to us, personal accountability doesn't just to me mean we're talking about you're going to the gym regularly, you are, building in maybe some sort of mindfulness techniques. Yes, that is a part of it. But I also think there's a part with personal accountability of, for you, Chris, you talk about all the time, but I made this commitment to my family. And so there's this personal accountability that you hold yourself to with that. So you're able to show up for them, or maybe you're adjusting your gym routine or other things. It's a sacrifice maybe sometimes to you, but so you can. I also think personal accountability says like, hey, our family really needs a vacation this year. So let's hold myself accountable to find that space and time, or maybe save to make that a reality. I think there's so many more things outside this. Don't just think of this as a dreary exercise of, okay, I'm waking up at 5, I'm doing a cold shower and then going to the gym, and then I'm doing 100 hours of meditation a week. Like, no, I think there's so much more with personal accountability too.
Yeah, I agree. And I guess I'll just, leave this little grenade on the table as we wrap up. I think more than the other 5 tenets, personal accountability is really where I would house almost like character. Like, what is the character of your person, right? Because to your point, Colin, it's not just about like, oh, I'm willing to get up early, but it's also like where are you morally aligned, ethically aligned, like in personal accountability is when you like stick to that, right? Like, two questions I just asked, like your ethics and values and things like that's, I guess you could say in many buckets, but once you know what that is, once you said, okay, that's where I stand on those things, personal accountability is where you stick to them. And that's where character really shows up. And so for me, it's to your point, way, way, way more broad than just like being willing to set, an alarm and getting up. And it's not just about like doing the thing, but I think personal accountability also has for what purpose, right? Why are we doing that thing? I am accountable. If I'm going to take a job and it's going to somehow impact my wife and my children, it's not just a matter of, am I setting goals to make sure I do that job well? It's also like, why did I take that job in the first place? I'm accountable to be able to answer that question well, if it's going to have an impact on those around me. So I completely agree with you. For everybody listening, don't get hung up on like setting the alarm or taking a cold shower. Like, we're kind of in that kind of phase right now, I think, with all sorts of like self-development and personal development. It's a part of that, but it's a lot more. So, all right, I'll go ahead and wrap up. I'll read.
And then I will end with the quote. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, perfect. And then again, what I think we'll do towards the end of the full miniseries, Colin, is like, like have them all together and see like how do they synergize, right? How do these things actually start coming together? So I think it's in a good place.
I'm looking forward to it.
Subject to a little change. So, all right, everybody, here we go. The new definition for personal accountability on the Path podcast is personal accountability means leading and regulating yourself by setting goals and standards with regular self-reflection. It promotes growth in physical, mental, and spiritual well-being by aligning actions with your purpose and committing to a life of continuous learning.
I love it. And as you said, we'll see how they all go together. The very next one and last but not least is strong community. And as I did in our last episode, and there's just one other part of the Tecumseh, I would say poem that I truly love and I think builds into this. Like, why do we need to hold ourselves accountable? Well, I think at the end of the day, love your life, perfect your life, and beautify all things in your life. Seek to make your life long and its purpose and service of your people. And to me, I think the part of personal accountability, is the perfecting your life and seeking to make it long. I think that also goes to some of these healthy habits that require personal accountability. So I just like those two sentences, a little snippet of that piece. So yeah, if you got feedback, as we've said before, everyone listening, slide in our DMs, put it in the chats or in the TikToks, the Instagrams, the YouTubes. We truly do love feedback, and I am excited to see after we complete this mini series, how does this all look together when we revisit all the refined definitions at one time.
That's right.
With that, Chris, I'll see you on the path.
See you on the path.